Today, we are introducing the new game from TAKA MAKA called SIMINO, the board game. SIMINO, the game from TAKA MAKA publishing house, challenges your memory, strengthens your strategic abilities, and gives you the power to make the ultimate decision. SIMINO, the board game, requires 1 to 4 players of all ages. To get started, players should lay out all the special tile symbols onto the field in front of them. Tiles should be placed strategically to prepare for gameplay and to prevent opponents' future actions. The first player to discard all tiles from their hands wins the game. SIMINO, the board game, depicts a field on the bottom of the board, with 28 tiles labeled with 2 symbols on each. The players need to place the tiles on the field. To start the game, place the board at the center of the table and mix all the tiles to create a pile next to the field. Each player then takes 5 tiles from the pile. But please, make sure the opponents do not see the tiles. To better understand, I will have all the players' tiles face up. Next, once the game is fully set up, you can choose your first player in any method you would prefer. Then, the board game will be ready to start. This game is played clockwise. To play the game, players must place 1 tile onto the field and 1 tile into their personal reserve. To start the game, when the board is empty, player 1 must place a tile from their hands anywhere onto the field, horizontally or vertically, and then place a tile into their own reserve. After player 1 has completed their turn, player 2 has multiple options. Player 2 can choose a tile in their hand which colors do not match and place it onto an empty corner of the field. Or they can pick a tile in their hand which matches the color of the tiles on the board. They can then place the tiles positioned touching each other with the matching colors, giving you 4 different options to place the tiles. As the game progresses, more and more tiles will appear on the field. The main priority is to place at least 1 color of the new tile next to the matching color of an existing tile. Once 1 tile has been placed adjacent to another tile, the player will no longer be able to place another tile onto any of the empty corners. If they do not have any color tiles which match the ones on the field, then they cannot place tiles into an empty corner either. Players will need to make sure all tiles are placed within a vicinity of each other. Players can also place tiles that are adjacent in color to tiles on the other levels. Players can now place this tile on the first level adjacent in color with the tile on the second level. When placing a tile on the field of the first level, players should avoid creating an empty space in which a new tile cannot be placed. During their turn, when a suitable situation occurs, players can place their tiles on top of each other on the second or even the third floor, instead of placing the tile in an empty space. The one requirement being both colors on the tile match the covered tile. When a player places a tile onto the second floor, the next player to the left will then receive a penalty of taking 1 tile from the reserve. If the tile is placed on the third floor, then the player to the left has to take 2 tiles, and so on. When a player places a double tile, a tile with the same colors, onto the second floor or higher, the player can then place a second double tile in the same turn. When this happens, the next player receives penalties for each laid out tile during their turn. Currently, it's 3 tiles, 1 for a double on the second floor, and 2 for the tiles on the third floor. When the tile is in stock and the reserves run dry, the active player issues the penalty from the tiles in their own hands. After placing a tile and the reserve is empty, the player does not need to take any additional tiles. When the player places their last tile and there aren't any more in the reserve pile, the game is then over for that player, and then they receive as many points as there are tiles in the other player's hands. The game is continued only until 1 player has tiles left in their hands, or when there are no available moves or options left on the field. The same rules are applied to the third player if playing with 4 people. However, if all players still still have tiles, the point scoring system goes as followed. The last player doesn't receive any points, even if they have tiles left in their hands. But it can also turn out that the players do not have the correct tiles, which then they can skip their turn until they can make a move. The game is played only until one player has tiles left in their hands, or there are no other moves left on the board. Then the round is over. If all the players skip their turn, then the scoring goes as followed. The player with the fewest tiles gets 1 point for each tile in the hands of the other players. The player with the second least amount of tiles receives 1 point for each tile in the hands of players with more tiles than them. Once the points are added up, the round is concluded. Players can then start preparing for the next level. The game of SIMINO continues until a player scores 17 points or 7 rounds are played. After the 7 rounds, the player with the highest score wins. These are all the basic rules of SIMINO. However, this box includes 4 more bonus options, which we will explain. For example, players can play the tandem option, designed to be played by 4 players. To begin the game, the players are divided into teams and play 1 against 1 with each other. In this option, a player's teammate can finish secretly, scoring points regularly. As the game continues, the teammates will have access to their partner's hands as well. The round is over when all tiles between team members run out or there are no other moves left. The players can then add up the points as mentioned before, with the point system remaining unchanged. Players can also play SIMINO solo with the SIMINO solitaire option. The game is played according to the traditional rules, except the player makes more moves and no penalties are given. When the game is over, the winning points go as follow. Tiles on the second floor are worth 1 point. Tiles on the third floor are worth 2 points. Each remaining tile in the reserve subtracts 1 point from the current score. If all tiles are laid out onto the field, 5 extra points are rewarded. This is how you can play SIMINO solo, trying to beat your previous high score every time. The next game option is playing SIMINO with white. During this option, the white color is considered the weakest. Any color can be placed on top of the white tiles. Otherwise, the rules remain unchanged. The last option is SIMINO black. In this version, the black color is the strongest color. The black color can be placed on or adjacent to any other color, including black. Otherwise, the rules remain unchanged. We have now reviewed all the rules and options of the SIMINO board game. If there are any questions, please leave them in the comments and we will answer promptly. Thank you and have a good day.